The former president did a town hall with Sean Hannity. It was supposed to be the first presidential debate. Kamala Harris decided that she didn't want to accept Fox News's debate. Donald Trump decided to do a town hall with Sean Hannity instead. And the former president is at his best when he's with people, but when he's talking about the economy. But he also made this pitch to the American people. He says, you don't have to like me, but you have no choice right now. Watch.
You can't take the chance. You have no choice. You've got to vote for me. You've got to vote for me. You got to. Even if you don't like me, you know? Yeah. It's no, but even if you don't like me, you can sit there and say, I can't stand that guy, but there's no way I'm going to vote for her. No, you have to have fracking. You know, you're the biggest in the country for this. You have two of the biggest sites in the world. It's a massive business for Pennsylvania, and you can't take a chance. She will not allow fracking. It's still about the forgotten man and the forgotten woman. The people are being treated horribly in this country. We're a country that's being laughed at all over the world. And I'll be honest, if Joe Biden would be a great president, I would be happier than being the worst president in the history of our country, because I want to see what's good for the country.
Yeah, and today he's going to talk about his economic plan.
You know what I love so much about that is one of the criticisms you hear about President Trump is always mean tweets. He basically just said, like, you may not like my mean tweets, but I'll make you money. You may not like my mean tweets, but I won't cause World War III. You may not like my mean tweets, but illegal immigrant will be under control at the southern border. I thought that was a very effective, real message and, you know, makes you laugh.
The Lawfare topic because we get to bring back the old Trump the Conqueror UFC memes. And we are big fans of UFC at this show. And so, yes, more Trump UFC memes. Jerry, are we going to do like a Trump UFC season? I would like to do maybe like an entire week where Donald Trump UFC memes. There's so UFC is like built on meme culture, and there's so many fruitful meme fields to mine with Donald Trump inside of the octagon. Maybe we do that. Maybe we do that next week in the lead up to the debate. If there is a debate, apparently Kamala is still trying to negotiate to get her I'm speaking moment to get her mic turned live the entire time. Yeah, okay. We'll talk about all of what's going on in the world today because the world's gone insane. And it's very, very interesting how desperate people are getting in order to spin fake narratives. Is very fascinating. Exactly the limits to which lawfare will extend against President Trump to keep him from office, and what does that mean? And would they even allow Donald Trump to take over the office of the presidency, as Brett Weinstein commented on earlier this week? Is that even possible? Would the regime even let it happen? Very interesting. We're going to cover all of it today, Thursday, September 5th, 2024. The judge who is trying to throw Trump in jail and may very well throw Trump in jail in 2 weeks. We don't know. Juan Merchan is facing his own massive lawsuit. Jack Smith's new indictment dead on arrival after the first one has been nuked. Donald Trump in court today. Trump's lawyers in court today arguing against Jack Smith after the Supreme Court immunity ruling. And of course, with such legal questions, such weighty legal questions at hand, we have on our tried and trusty crew of experts, Mike Davis and Tom Fitton, who will join the show. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Be on the watch, ladies and gentlemen, for market collapse. You might have seen employment numbers this morning at half of what they were projected to be. You could see payrolls revised down every single month. You can see that the American economy is sort of teetering, right? You've seen collapse. What it is, NVIDIA lost the most of any company ever in history. I don't know the exact number. It was hundreds of billions of dollars over the $2.70 billion over the last couple of days. Here's what I've been saying for a very long time, and this is what I've been saying forever. The dollar, which is not backed by anything, you might want to consider diversification. All right. You may want to consider diversifying into gold, silver, precious metals, commodities, things that actually stand the test of time, the value of time. This is how me and my family invests, obviously. It's very important. And also, there's nothing better than actually, well, holding a piece of physical gold in your hand. It's like having something that's real. In a world of total synthetics, have something that's real. Go with my friends at Allegiance Gold. Go to protectwithbenny.com today, protectwithbenny.com today, or call 844-66-BENNY. Right now, get $5,000 in free silver with a qualifying purchase. And make sure that you and your family are protected for whatever is to come. Because Democrats, I think right now, are hedging for whatever is to come. Now, we have some interesting assassination details that we will talk about later in the show. But let's just say that President Trump is still alive. And not only is President Trump still alive, President Trump's got his mojo back. We were live all night with President Trump and his town hall. And I think we intend on being live tonight because they filmed another version, an extension of that town hall where everyone gets to ask Trump questions. And we love these kind of Q&As, especially from the general public with Trump. He shines in that. We'll probably be live for that tonight as well. But last night, what you saw was President Trump on sort of a wartime attack footing. And he went hard at Kamala Harris, hard at Tim Walz. It was hysterical. And Donald Trump buoyed by a couple of things. One, really excellent polls. Two, Kamala running scared. That should have been a debate. The night was September 4th. That was supposed to be a debate, a live debate inside of a massive arena and live audience with President Trump versus Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris chickened out, ran away. She ran to the close, cloistered comfort of ABC News, an agency that Donald Trump is in an active lawsuit against. So this is like makes for a strange debate environment that will happen. Allegedly, will happen next Thursday. We only say that because every single day Kamala Harris seems to find a new way to try and wiggle out. Trump team saying she's trying to wiggle out of these debates. Anyway, President Trump was buoyed by Kamala Harris's fear, by Tim Walz's own family coming out in support of Trump yesterday. It went thermonuclear on our page. I think it got 100,000 reposts, hundreds of thousands of likes. See if we can grab that. Tim Walz's family in Nebraska coming out, and the AP confirmed this is Tim Walz's family. This is Tim Walz's family. I want to state for the record, I speculated that maybe these were his brothers and mothers. These are, according to the AP, family members of Tim Walz who live in Nebraska that are either cousins, nephews, nieces, first cousins, and so on. And so this is what the actual image is. The AP has done that reporting. Yeah, that sucker flew, man. What was it? Oh, okay. So we got a community note saying that it's not his entire family. It's not every living member of his family. Well, whatever. It's Tim Walz's family, nonetheless, coming out and supporting President Trump. Walz for Trump. And then the polls. And the polls for President Trump are looking really good right now. Reminder, after the DNC convention, after the sort of summer petered out, and the die was cast for fall, that President Trump was down by 10 points or more to Joe Biden in every poll. President Trump was down by double digits, sometimes 20 points or more against Hillary Clinton in 2016 at this exact time. Yet virtually every poll showed the race a dead heat or Trump leading right now. This is going to lead to an enormous amount of desperation. Also, there has been some shocking revelations about Kamala Harris, her past, and the media is beginning to actually dig into who Kamala Harris is or isn't. And that's going to be very dangerous to pin down because Kamala Harris is an empty husk. And we say regularly that is a feature, not a bug for Kamala Harris. It means she's totally controllable. It means that she can be a muppet and a puppet of the superstate here in America, the ruling class. And so we have a situation that is not looking great for Democrats. President Trump looking very, very strong. And final little icing on the cake here, cherry on top, President Trump is also a closer. Then we have President Trump heads in strong into the final the final sort of run of these races. And he did this in 2016 and in 2020 as people begin to actually like sort of wake up, pay attention, awake from like the slumber of the summer. They like see, wow, holy smokes. Like Trump is, the Trump policies were much better for my life. In fact, it was the best question probably last night was Sean Hannity being like, is your life better or worse than it was 4 years ago? And this is the only question that really needs to be asked. People are beginning to ask that question. So let's jump into some of the polls here real quickly. White pills of the day. Kamala Harris. These pollsters were right. In 2016 and 2020, they think Kamala Harris is already lost. Uh-oh, her mojo. Most polls show Kamala Harris with a slight lead in swing states, depending on the poll. But the two southern states pollsters are bucking the trend, and they've got President Donald Trump a big insider advantage. And Trafalgar, who were the most accurate pollsters in the last two elections, and they have a truly demonstrated record of this. Trafalgar, especially, suggests that Kamala Harris has already lost her momentum. Insider Advantage found that Trump ahead in Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and down by only 0.5% in Georgia. Oh my goodness! He noted that he and Robert Cahey of Trafalgar, which handled Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, were both the top two pollsters in 2016 and 2020 cycle because their methodology allowed them to pick up some of the Trump vote that other pollsters may not be able to get. To be sure, all of Trump leads are narrow or within the margin of error, meaning that states could very well go either way on election day. But this is, of course, a very, very bad situation for Kamala Harris to be in. The momentum that we are seeing after the Democrat National Convention has come to an end. And the surges in Democrat enthusiasm in polls have also slowed, and they are now close to parity with Republicans. This will be a turnout election shaped heavily by next week's map break and make or break presidential debate. So we're going to, obviously the stakes could be higher. Joe Biden literally resigned public office forever after the last debate. So that was a pretty unbelievable debate performance and result. And then Kamala Harris, could the stakes be higher? I guess not. I don't think there's a chance for them to swap out another candidate. As we'll cover in a second, they're going to do their best to make sure that Donald Trump, can't be the candidate. And they're doing everything they can to reignite their lawfare against President Trump. Here we go. Nate Silver on the predictions market. So what I like about Nate Silver's polls here is that he weights every single poll. You may disagree with him on that weighting. People's Pundit certainly does. Rich Barris was on the program earlier this week. But Nate Silver weights every single poll and then maps out algorithmically and mathematically the Electoral College and then determines a percentage chance of Trump winning versus Kamala Harris. Now, we made a prediction early this week on Monday. We said that Donald Trump will be in the position he was against Joe Biden after the debate. After the debate, and the position that Donald Trump was in was he was leading by 30 points in Nate Silver's electoral probability map. And now you can actually begin to see right now the erosion of Kamala Harris. You can begin to see right now that Trump is already heading there. Trump with a 58% chance of winning. Harris with a 42% chance of winning. Electoral votes, 275 to Trump, 263 to Harris. Again, very, very close race, but this is his prediction. The polls are beginning now to break. We have Polymarket here saying that there is now a 7-point gap between President Trump and Kamala Harris. Kamala down 1. And this is a poll based on smart money, ladies and gentlemen. Trump's now up by 7%. So this is in the betting markets. Real Clear Politics betting odds. Real Clear Politics betting odds has Trump now surging ahead of Kamala Harris. You can see here that Kamala had herself quite the bump after Biden dropped out. Donald Trump was, of course, up huge on Joe Biden. And now Kamala Harris is slumping. Now the slump has officially happened. With Robert F. Kennedy's endorsement, it's going to be really, truly remarkable to see. RFK is saying that he's going to campaign with Donald Trump in every single swing state. I think we have that clip. Yeah. RFK saying he's going to campaign with Donald Trump in every single swing state. This is leading to panic. All of these numbers lead to panic for Democrats. Here's RFK.
My name's on the ballot, but I support Donald Trump. Don't vote for him. Don't vote for me. Would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I already intend to do that. We're planning a Make America Healthy Again tour where we're going to visit almost all of those states. So I will be doing rallies in each of those states over the next 61 days. We want to, if we're going to accomplish the mission that I set out to accomplish when I got into this campaign, to end the censorship, to end the surveillance, to get out of the Ukraine war and unravel the war machine, and the chronic disease epidemic. The only way to do that is to get President Trump in the White House and me into Washington. So we're going to pull out all the stops to make sure that happens.
Are you going to be alongside Donald Trump, essentially campaigning with him in those states?
I may be. I don't, we don't know. We haven't worked out the entire schedule, but certainly I'll probably do rallies with him and with other surrogates for President Trump. We're co-planning these rallies, the Make America Healthy Again rallies and the Drain the Swamp rallies with the Trump campaign. And we expect the Trump campaign to show up at the rallies too. So we're going to, I will be campaigning side by side with the president and with members of his family and with other members of his campaign.
Ladies and gentlemen, here are the odds for Republicans taking the Senate. Republicans have a 72% chance of taking the Senate. Democrats have only a 28% chance of keeping the Senate. They have only a one-seat majority right now as it stands. In Ohio, Donald Trump is up by 10 points. Remember the swing state of Ohio? Remember how Ohio was a swing state just like what seems like a couple hours ago? Yeah. Donald Trump has cleaned that up. Now Donald Trump is cleaning up in other swing states that are incredibly important. Here's Trafalgar, one of the people that we trust the very most. Pennsylvania, Trump's up by 2. Wisconsin, Trump's up by 1. Michigan, it's neck and neck. Woo! These are terrifying numbers for the left, knowing the fact that Kamala Harris can't do interviews and can't make her case to the American people. So they're going to have to depend on sugar high alone, diabetes type 2 level sugar highs. Donald Trump up in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Donald Trump up here in Arizona, Nevada, and North Carolina. Here's the polling from Insider Polling. Again, these are the most accurate pollsters of the 2016 and 2020 elections. Trump up 1 in Arizona, 1 in Nevada, neck and neck in Georgia, and up 1 in North Carolina. Man. And then who are the people who are going to be the very, very most motivated to actually show up on election day? Have you ever been to a MAGA rally? We've been to hundreds of them. You ever seen the enthusiasm? Kamala Harris, as we covered last night, Kamala Harris has to bus people in to her events. She bussed people in from Massachusetts to her event in New Hampshire yesterday. Why is Kamala Harris even wasting time in New Hampshire? How bad are things that Kamala Harris is in New Hampshire? New Hampshire went for Joe Biden. I think New Hampshire went for Hillary Clinton. Let me know, guys, if that's the case in 2016. I'm almost sure that's the case. So as the wall begins to crumble electorally, even Minnesota in play. Minnesota, Trump within 5 in Minnesota. This is panic time, right? So there's gonna be existential panic. There's bad things. There's obviously some bad things happening globally, very universally for Kamala Harris. Like for instance, as the honeymoon sort of wears off, and as the press begin to just ask questions about Kamala Harris, they begin to do segments like this. This just aired on CNN. I cannot believe this was allowed to air on CNN. This is CNN for like minutes on end calling Kamala a liar. Go.
Tonight, K-File investigates. In a new report, you'll see first out front. The K-File team scoured Kamala Harris's tweets and statements going all the way back to 2017. And what they found was more than 50 instances of Harris slamming Trump's border wall. But now, new Harris campaign ads actually showcase that very wall.
As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border.
And on top of critical tweets, Harris also wrote in her 2019 book, quote, "There was a bigger reason to oppose the border wall. A useless wall on the southern border would be nothing more than a symbol, a monument standing in opposition to not just everything I value, but to the fundamental values upon which this country was built. How could I vote to build what would be little more than a monument designed to send the cold, hard message, keep out? Well, K-File's Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. So, Andrew, I mean, you all have gone through, scoured an incredible amount of material. Tell me more about what you found.
Yeah, that's right. We found more than 50 of those tweets criticizing the border wall before she used that in her ad. And I want people to take a look at just a few of what she said here. She called it wasteful, useless, a waste of taxpayer money, a vanity wall project, a wasteful border wall, a stupid wall, a medieval vanity project, and an unnecessary wall.
Okay, so what is going on with CNN? What's happening here? They're actually turning their fact checkers on Kamala Harris. This happened after the Kamala Harris interview on CNN, where a fact checker who is very Dane and very reticent, who's, I guess, been in total and complete grizzly hibernation over the past 4 years, a guy named Daniel Dale, who was on pure Adderall and Monster energy drinks and never sleeping when Trump was president, but has not awoken in the entire Biden residency at the White House. But Daniel Dale was on to fact check Kamala Harris on the fracking issue right after the Kamala CNN exclusive last week that we were live for. And it was a miracle that we could even do a whole show on that because Kamala only spoke for 16 minutes. Again, President Trump was live for an hour last night. He's going to be live for an hour this night, tonight. And so, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to compare and contrast and to see actually if the machine, right, the ghosts in the machine, the mechanisms can actually create a fabrication of Kamala Harris enough to get people motivated to vote for her. We don't think so. And you're starting to see that now in the polling. So what is that going to mean? That's going to mean a massive ratchet up in desperation, in a desperate attempt to keep Trump out of the race or to harm Trump in the final small hours and dark hours of this election cycle. They are going to ratchet as harshly as possible the political persecution and judicial persecution against President Trump. Now, some of our allies at America First Legal have filed suit today, as of this morning, as the breaking news this morning, ping-pong balled around the internet. Juan Merchan, this is the guy who may well sentence Trump to prison in a week and a half. I know it seems crazy, but this may happen. I need to, we've been doing this for a long time. This may happen, and we've been preparing this audience for this for quite a while. People said never happened to Peter Navarro, it will never happen to Steve Bannon. And now those same people are saying it will never happen to Donald Trump. No, you got to be prepared for this. We've just laid down 20 straight minutes of how bad things are going for the Democrat Party. Could they put Donald Trump in Rikers Island? Well, ladies and gentlemen, what's important is that people begin to see the fraudulence of this process, beginning with this lawsuit. Juan Merchan sued by America First Legal. Judge Merchan's daughter is the president of a firm that does work for prominent Democrats like President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, under New York law, you are supposed to do financial disclosures, is what the lawsuit says, for all judges. You have to confirm that this judge isn't motivated to rule against President Trump so that his daughter gets rich. You must do that. You have to lay that groundwork down. He's a judge, after all. This would be called a conflict of interest. Now, this guy has been, based on New York law, conflicted out. But as legal experts have told us on the show again and again, the judge has to recuse himself in New York. It's crazy. There's no act of recusal that can be mandated to a judge. The judge has to back away himself. And Judge Merchan not only didn't back away here, Judge Merchan has suspiciously been on every single one of these cases, like the Steve Bannon case and so on. And so Juan Merchan, by just pure random lottery, gets the Donald Trump case. Donald Trump is found guilty of these bookkeeping errors that had been bootstrapped into a felony. It was a misdemeanor beyond the statute of limitations. And now he's being sued because he hasn't filed his financial disclosures. Well, why would that be? America First Legal, let's read. America First Legal, New York Supreme Court, Judge Juan Merchan is refusing to turn over financial disclosures amid questions about his daughter's work from a Democratic law firm. America First Legal sued Merchan, who's presided over President Donald Trump's 6-week-long trial in New York versus Trump stemming from the years-long investigation Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office. They also sued New York State Unified Court Systems Ethics Commission. Trump was found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records of first degree. Trump has appealed the ruling and called on Merchan to overturn the verdict. Lawsuit comes after America First Legal sent a demand letter last week for Merchan's financial disclosures threatening legal action. They've been requesting the financial records since June. Under New York law, judges are required to file annual financial disclosures, which are required to be made available upon public request. Let's read quickly here from the Vice President, Dan Epstein, of America First Legal. The law is clear that judicial financial disclosures must be released to the public. New York's highest court has stated that such disclosures are necessary for parties and courts to get a fair shake. Well, we shall see, ladies and gentlemen. Again, President Trump could very well on September 18th be sent to prison. How is that even possible? Because Supreme Court rulings have now effectively mandated that these rulings get thrown out. Well, I look forward to talking to our legal experts who will be joining Tom Fitton and Mike Davis in a moment here about this. Federal judge has rejected Donald Trump's request to intervene in the wake of a hush money conviction. Donald Trump has been appealing this, but since it is on a state level, he cannot get federal relief. The path of the Supreme Court here is, of course, rife, since it is on a state level. And just so that you know that we have the documentation of Juan Merchan's daughter making, I don't know if it's hundreds of millions, but it's definitely tens of millions from Democrat activism. Seems to be a blatant conflict of interest that is of public record. Here they are. Here's the payments cataloged by Julie Kelly. Julie Kelly is currently in Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., there is a trial going on right now. That trial is for the January 6th hearing. So Trump has skipped that trial. He's not physically in court, but his lawyers are. He pleads not guilty to charges in Jack Smith's election case. Julie Kelly is there, and we're going to work on getting her perhaps for the show tomorrow to tell us what it was like. She's in the courthouse right now. Trump waives his right to attend the arraignment in D.C. federal courts. This is all happening after, of course, the Supreme Court's immunity decision. This decision has led to a massive shakeup. Trump cases have been dismissed. You will recall, obviously, the Florida case was dismissed on the first day of the RNC convention, wildly. Judge Cannon dismissed the Trump classified documents case, saying, and this is in the most devastating possible way that you can do this, saying that Jack Smith is not correctly appointed. Jack Smith isn't a federal employee. Jack Smith wasn't confirmed by the Senate. So the Jack Smith isn't actually a special counsel and can't even bring these charges. So bye-bye. They have been appealing that in ravenous fashion. So what's going on right now is clearly lawfare against President Trump. However, it's done in the auspices of we're just following the letter of the law. Well, our friend Steven Crowder has out this morning quite a fascinating video alleging that the DOJ chief of public affairs, admits that Trump indictments are politically motivated, perversion of justice. And I apologize. This broke while we were live. So my producers have been going through it. I'm reading it for the first time with you. And they're saying we got to play this. Reveals that lawfare involved making presidents a convicted felon, and it has backfired on Democrats. And it says that Alvin Bragg's case is nonsense. He was just stacking charges. Well, something that we've been saying on this program, something Mike Davis has been saying on this program, something every legal expert, Brett Tolman, to Julie Kelly, to Tom Fitton has been saying on this program. But now we have a DOJ public affairs official, probably a lawyer himself, saying this. Here's part of the Steven Crowder leak here. This is wild. I encourage you to watch it. This is the post here on, is this Steven's X account? Okay. This is a post here on Steven's X account. Drink in hand, full O'Keefing, we call this. Let's go.
Those felonies did nothing to stop Trump from running.
No, in fact, they made him more relevant.
Did that backfire?
Sure do. And the whole thing is disgusting. They're just out to get him. And that's why I like the surging of the police. It's a perversion of justice. He was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. No, to be honest with you, I think the case is nonsense. State level is like the Wild West. They're like idiots. They don't care. They're all political. So yeah, this guy's probably going to try to lock him up, and it's going to be ugly. They're so obsessed with getting him.
Who is they?
Alvin Bragg, yeah, who I've known for 15 years. He used to work in my office. It's before he decided to prosecute Trump. Did you know who he was? You do now. I'm not sure what he wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA of New York County. So Alvin's very ambitious. Every real estate person in New York does what he did. Nobody's ever been charged with this until him.
So this is the guy who's in charge of public relations for the DOJ, the SDNY office, which is a prestigious office, saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, that all of the Trump indictments are politically motivated. They're a perversion of justice. They reveal that Lawfare is making presidents convicted felons. They have backfired. Trump is more powerful than ever. His former colleague, Alvin Bragg, is nonsense. He's stacking charges because he wants higher office. He views getting Trump, putting Trump in prison as a gateway to going somewhere in his career, which is, of course, the definition of malign justice. So that's a very interesting breaking piece of news from Steven Crowder. I encourage you to go over to Steven's page, watch this fully, and wow, they got some questions. They're gonna have a few. They're gonna have a few questions. We have a few questions, just very briefly, because I wanted to sort of do like a cruise through Trump lawfare right now. Things have gone horribly. Obviously, you know the Supreme Court rulings about presidential immunity. The Fisher decision with January 6 defendants that directly applies to the charges brought against Donald Trump. We've covered all of this morning. The one place we haven't hit, we've gone from New York to DC to Florida. One place we haven't hit is Georgia, Fani Willis's case. Yeah. What's happening to Fani Willis? Well, Fani Willis is getting arrested, or actually her daughter is getting arrested. Her doppelganger daughter is being arrested. Driving on a suspended license, had to go to prison, had to go to jail for, I think, a couple days, maybe a couple hours. And then Fani Willis had to go bail her out. And there was something really special in this arrest video that we got from Georgia. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, nobody is above the law. Remember that, okay? Even Fani Willis. Something special from this. There's an Easter egg here. See if you can spot. See if you can spot somebody who we lovingly refer to as Nathan's hot dog in this arrest.
Apparently her license is suspended. Okay. For something. Doesn't tell us what for or why or where, or that's something she's going to have to call DMV to find out. Right. Probably what happened, she had a speeding ticket for some kind of traffic infraction, never went to court, didn't take care of it. Right. That's the best guess. So she's gone over to Fayette County Jail, which is right into Fayetteville Square. It's 145 Johnson Avenue. Yeah. Normally, I would say a couple hours is the process. It just depends on how busy they are and like that, okay? The driving on the suspended is basically a traffic citation. She's got to have her fingerprints done and picture taken, then she can make her bonds. You can pay it cash, use a bondsman, be 10%, whatever.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is too entertaining. Too entertaining. We were not expecting the return of Nathan's hot dog. I thought their relationship was supposed to be over. Hold on, is that the point? The relationship's supposed to be over. Big Fani, Nathan's hot dog, the Romeo and Juliet of our time. This was supposed to be done with. But here they are, back together again. And going on a little road trip and getting arrested. Or at least the daughter is. So good times all around. Somebody who's regularly come on our program and said jail for Fani Willis, and somebody who will have to respond to the breaking news directly out of the court in Washington, D.C., and we'll read that right off the top of the interview, is the great Mike Davis, the founder of the Article 3 Project, joins us live now. Mike, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I would just say that was Big Fani with Little Fani, and then Nathan Wade. I mean, this guy, hasn't he earned his $700,000 yet? He's still with Big Fani.
You gotta pay off those loans, man. They have interest. All right, you gotta pay out. You gotta pay with interest. Okay, and the interest rates are high right now. So Nathan Wade is I guess doing the work for all the rest of us. Poor guy. We should probably send him a sympathy card. I'm not sure if they make one sad enough for Nathan Wade, but here we are. Judge Chutkan, Mike, I want to get you to respond to this. I assume you are in Washington, D.C. Judge Chutkan, reversed by the Supreme Court and criticized by Chief Justices for rushing the immunity order, came out swinging this morning. The hearing just ended for Donald Trump in D.C. Apparently, she was condescending, smug, intemperate, unprepared, and like angry and visceral towards the Trump lawyers in that case. This happening in Washington. Jack Smith humiliated and disgraced, but is back in court today. Your thoughts?
It sounds like D.C. Obama Judge Tanya Chutkan is well on her way to another reversal by the Supreme Court of the United States. It sounds like she is indignant and she doesn't want to follow the Supreme Court's 6-3 presidential immunity decision, where the president of the United States, any president of the United States, is immune from criminal prosecution for his official acts, not his personal acts, just like presidents have been immune from civil prosecution for their official acts going back 40 years to the Nixon decision by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court simply extended the Nixon decision from the civil context to the criminal context. This is just happening now. This is unprecedented. The Supreme Court had to do this because this is the first time ever a former president has been charged with any crime. And you have this Biden-Kamala orchestrated lawfare against President Trump with 4 different criminal indictments in 4 different jurisdictions based upon bogus criminal charges. And so the Supreme Court is, they tried to bankrupt Trump. They tried to throw him in prison for the rest of his life. They tried to throw him off the ballot in Colorado and Maine. The Supreme Court stopped them. And so what are they trying to do? They want to destroy the Supreme Court that got in their way with court packing and term limits and impeachment and ethics regimes. They want to underfund Trump's Secret Service detail and almost get his head blown off. And that's not good enough. So now this is like the Freddy Krueger lawfare. They have their ears blown off and their arms blown off and their eyes blown off, but they're coming back. It's like Freddy Krueger Part 6. They just won't go away.
It's merely a flesh wound.
Yes.
So how is this legal? How is it possible? Sorry, I knocked over my gavel. I'm such a legal expert here, Mike, and I'm so good with the gavel. How do you possibly push forward after that Supreme Court smackdown, and also after the humiliating smackdown that you've talked about on this program quite gleefully, because you were the only one predicting it, in Florida, where the Eileen Cannon says Jack Smith isn't real?
You don't. So here's what's going to happen. You have this DC Obama judge, Tanya Chutkan, who's largely going to ignore the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling, both the letter and the spirit of it, because Jack Smith is a buffoon and he'll push her to do that. And then that will be immediately appealable to the DC Circuit. And if the DC Circuit rules against Trump again, because they're a bunch of Democrat hacks and weak Republican judges, then it will go to the Supreme Court again and Trump will win at the Supreme Court. This case is not going to get resolved before the presidential election. The more likely scenario is Trump is going to win on November 5th. And then on day 1, on January 20th, his acting attorney general must dismiss these charges against Trump with prejudice and fire Jack Smith and open a probe on this unprecedented Republic-ending lawfare and election interference by Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, Jay Bratz, Matthew Colangelo, Alvin Bragg, Tish James, Nathan Wade, Fani Willis, Judge Juan Merchan. There's a whole cast of characters who are engaged in a criminal conspiracy to violate the constitutional rights of President Trump, his top aides like Peter Navarro, who went to prison, Steve Bannon, who's in prison, his January 6th supporters who were politically persecuted. Yes, persecuted under the Supreme Court's Fisher decision, parents being chased by the FBI for expressing outrage at gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes and bathrooms, Christians going to prison for praying outside of abortion clinics, while they give amnesty to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and BLM and Antifa and Hamas. There must be accountability for what they've done to our country.
So you brought up Juan Merchan, name dropped. This is in the news. America First Legal suing Juan Merchan for his financial disclosures. Apparently, he has not been making them. But more importantly, in 10 days approximately, so Juan Merchan may very well send Trump to prison. You've been saying this, actually. You've been predicting this on the program years ago, Mike. You have a record of coming on this show and being like, be careful, because the goal is to put Trump in jail before the election. Can you please, since we are on the eve of this happening, can you please game theory that out? Are they waiting to see how well Trump does against Kamala Harris? And if she craters like Biden did, this is like the act of last resort?
There is no question that their goal is to put President Trump in prison for the rest of his life, because they fear American voters on November 5th, and early voting starts in like a week, right? So they want to interfere in this election. They know, if you look at the polling, they know that Kamala has come down from her post-coup bounce. She didn't get a post-convention bounce. RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard stole that from her, and they're going to get desperate. And they see the polling now where Trump is steadily going ahead of Kamala, including in all these key swing states. He's going to win handily so long as his supporters show up and vote as early as possible. And this is going to be their last ditch effort, is to throw Trump in prison. That's going to be their Hail Mary. And selfishly, as a political hack, I actually hope that Judge Merchan, this corrupt judge whose daughter, Lauren Merchan, has raised millions of dollars off of this unprecedented criminal prosecution over which her father, Judge Juan Merchan, this Democrat Biden Kamala donor, this hack who should have recused this corrupt judge. I actually hope that Merchan is stupid enough to put Trump in jail even for an hour, because the Supreme Court of the United States will step in very quickly and stop it. And they're going to turn Trump into Nelson Mandela. If you thought that mugshot helped Trump politically, put him in Rikers Island for an hour and see what happens.
So, okay, please unpack that. So how does the Supreme Court intervene there? Can you game theory this? Because I do, it's clearly like game theorying to that moment, right? They're not going to miss their opportunity here. I do firmly believe that. And they're going to, I believe, apply an extreme pressure to put Trump in prison. They can't help themselves, right?
Yeah.
They truly cannot. They're rabid. And so then game theory, what happens then? We have all seen the reports of the National Guard now being stationed all over New York City. What happens next?
Well, I think what would happen is if Judge Juan Merchan, this corrupt judge who's required to recuse under New York law because his daughter is making money off of this case, it goes out like 6 degrees of separation under New York statute. The daughter's in the first degree. Lauren Merchan's raising money. Lauren Merchan just got paid by the Kamala campaign. We found that FEC report, that payment. So the daughter's now working for Kamala, Lauren Merchan. She's a leading fundraiser. This requires Merchan's recusal. But he's not going to do that. He's corrupt. So there are so many reversible errors with this case. Number one being that they didn't tell us what the crime was. We still don't know what the crime was, let alone a unanimous jury verdict on what the crime is. We don't know what the crime is even after the trial. That's a problem. The defendant can't defend himself if he doesn't know the crime. And it's not a crime what Trump did. A businessman settling a nuisance claim and booking it in his private books as a legal expense is not a crime. That's what you do. I've been a lawyer for nearly 20 years. That's how business people settle these things. The biggest problem right now is the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision, where the Supreme Court not only held you can't prosecute presidents for their official acts, you also can't use evidence of the president's official acts against him in a criminal prosecution. And that's exactly what this Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, and this Biden-Kamala senior political appointee in the Justice Department, Matthew Colangelo, did. They fought like hell to get Trump's conversations with Hope Hicks, his deputy White House chief of staff for communications, along with President Trump's Deputy White House Chief of Staff for Operations Madeline. Both of those conversations are subject to presidential immunity. The Supreme Court made that very clear in June. You can't use that evidence. And Bragg and Colangelo and Mershon used that evidence, both with the indictment with the grand jury and at trial. Now they're trying to say, oh, that evidence wasn't that important. It was cumulative, blah, blah, blah. Well, why did you fight so hard to get that evidence? Why did you fight over President Trump's objections? Why did you eviscerate 250 years of constitutional executive privilege going back to George Washington? If that evidence wasn't so important, why did you fight so hard to get it? It clearly was. And so Judge Mershon has to declare a mistrial on that issue alone. And he's not going to. He's going to move forward because he's a hack and he's corrupt, and his daughter, Laura Mershon's making money. And they will, if they move forward and put Trump in Rikers Island, Trump will be able to get emergency relief with the Supreme Court almost immediately. And the Supreme Court, there is no doubt in my mind the Supreme Court will step in and stop this. They will stay the execution of judgment. They will say you cannot put Trump in prison pending the appeal of this case. This case is going to take years to appeal.
So the Supreme Court has the power to do that, because that's the one thing that the structures that I've been missing is the power of the Supreme Court to step into these state matters that seem to have been designed in order to stop some type of federal intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. The Supreme Court they are the Supreme Court in the lands, and they have jurisdiction over both federal courts and all state courts. And when state courts are violating federal law, when state courts are violating the U.S. Constitution, the Supreme Court absolutely must step in, especially when you're dealing with something as important as the presidency. A former and likely future president of the United States, some corrupt judge and some hack prosecutor in some hellhole courthouse in New York City. They think that they got to just throw the former president, likely future president of the United States, in prison based upon bogus charges where we don't even know what the legal allegations are after the trial. It's not going to fly.
Just very quickly, Mike, I know that you really wanted to speak on presidential immunity, and you came on our show and you educated our audience for quite a long interview on what that means. It seems like all of these cases are just rife with landmines where they overstepped presidential immunity and just completely eviscerate and atomized that privilege for the president. How do any of these cases move forward, given the Supreme Court's ruling? It seems like we're living in a totally dual lane of justice here that like somehow operates outside of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean, I remember defending Trump after Mar-a-Lago more than 2 years ago. Pretty lonely effort at first. I noticed a lot more Republican lawyers, the rats who swam away from what they thought was the sinking ship, are now swimming back to USS Trump because they want jobs. But I would say this, that I took a lot of heat for what I said. And I admit that I'm a jerk, but I am almost always right. Like I was on this, and I was right on presidential immunity. Very right, 6-3 right. And the other side was very wrong. And I'll tell you, the biggest winner of this, and he's too stupid and dumb to realize this, is President Joe Biden, because he's not going to be the president on January 20th at 12:01 p.m. And Trump's going to win, but even if Kamala wins, does Joe Biden think that Kamala is going to protect him after Kamala gutted him in a bloodless coup? So Joe Biden, who is corrupt as hell, has $20 million going from China and every other foreign country into his bank accounts, every Biden family member's bank accounts. China controls him. I guess, we're going to talk about Russia, but China controls Joe Biden, right? And Joe Biden could face criminal prosecution after January 20th at 12:01 because his wing woman, Kamala, won't even protect him. And, so Joe Biden, he's too stupid to understand this, but he's the biggest winner of presidential immunity.
Mike Davis giving legal advice to Joe Biden on the program. and congratulating him. This is something very rare. Mike Davis is someone very rare, an actual Republican lawyer with a set of balls who actually fights and says true things and is not unafraid of doing that. So, Mike, God bless you. Godspeed. Here's how you follow Mike on social media and support his incredible organization that is staffed, actually, stem to stern, with Republican lawyers with iron spines. Mike, I like your new profile backdrop. I like your new profile cover. Yeah, it's very, very, very good. Maybe someday when we're both dead, we'll finally learn the motive of Thomas Crooks. Yes, one of these days.
Thank you, Ben.
Godspeed, Mike. All right, ladies and gentlemen, very interesting breaking news. Hunter Biden intends to plead guilty to federal tax charges. Hunter Biden will plead guilty? Holy moly, what's going on here? Well, somebody who knows about Democrats and guilt far better than maybe anyone alive. Somebody who's uncovered more than anyone alive on the duplicitous nature of what Democrats can get away with whilst in office is the great Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch, who joins the show live now. This is breaking news, Tom. I'm really glad that you are joining the program this morning. Thank you. Hunter Biden pleading guilty. Not sure that I'm not sure I saw this coming. He pleaded not guilty and then fought tooth and nail in Delaware against the gun charge, but now against the tax charges, he's saying I'm guilty in California. What does it say?
I think there's an indication there. I'll just warn, I'm not a criminal defense lawyer. In fact, I'm not a lawyer. But based on my significant experience as a layman, some of which is unfortunate, my guess is he's pleading guilty as part of a plea deal. And the DOJ agreed to let him plead guilty. And so there's now a path forward for the regime to avoid an embarrassing trial, however outrageously limited it was in terms of narrowing the charges to protect Joe. Nevertheless, they didn't want information coming out. And so there was an incentive for both Hunter and the Biden, Harris, Garland Justice Department to keep all of this out of court.
Does this say something about Trump's chances in November? Does this say that people are hedging? We might as well we better clean this up right away.
Well, in the least, it's a close run thing in November, right? No, I don't think anyone would dispute that. And so these are the sorts of political calculations that the Justice Department makes when proceeding against high-level political individuals. Look, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter who the target is. I don't trust the Justice Department on anything. And I have jokingly say, I want to defend Hunter, because I just think, he's obviously gotten a get out of jail free pass, get out of jail card on a lot of issues. But some of the decision making is as political as anything. And that goes for Republicans and Democrats. The Justice Department, for high-level people, political people, it's not a rule of law question. It's usually a political question.
So as we look at what's happening with President Trump, we see Trump lawyers in January 6th cases today. It seems like as the fates turn against Kamala Harris, and we're starting to see sort of a massive descent in polling. She's not adding to any coalition. The people are waking up from the sugar high, and the trends are looking quite scary if you're sitting there in Kamala Harris's camp. And all the leaks coming out of her camp is that people are very worried, especially about Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Arizona, and Georgia. So as that begins, you now see Trump back in court today, or at least Trump's lawyers in court today arguing against Jack Smith. Donald Trump will be sentenced. I think he'll have to physically be there on September 18th in New York to get sentenced. And everything seems to be ratcheting up just in time to ensure that maybe Trump's behind bars by election day? Do you think that there's a chance of that happening?
That would be a radical step, but I wouldn't put it past Merchant. And if I were on Trump's team, if I were President Trump, I'd be very concerned that he'd order Trump be immediately taken into custody. I mean, this is a lunatic fringe that's running the justice system, specifically with respect to this case. And their contempt for the Supreme Court in this process. The Supreme Court essentially said, everyone who's charging Trump, you need to go back to the drawing board and make sure everything from the get-go complies with our constitutional direction here, that the immunity that a president has be taken into account at every stage of the proceeding. And that wasn't done here, obviously. Some Clinton appointing the federal court didn't want to help Trump out. And I think the question is there going to be a Second Circuit appeal, which is the circuit that handles New York, or will the Supreme Court have to come in and tell Merchant to stand down? I think that might be the result, because I do think there's this kind of, the Trump derangement syndrome is a very real issue, and anti-Trump animus is destroying our justice system with the courts who are caught up in this TDS.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, how does Jack Smith carry on? Like, how does Jack Smith continue on after the smackdown in Florida? It does seem like wild to me, like parallel universes, that Jack Smith can have such a professional disgrace and humiliation, which of course he's like quite used to at this point, but he can have that in Florida and then move right back up to DC and begin operating with Tanya Chutkan today.
Well, he's got friendlier courts up here in DC. He's got Chutkan, who's on his side. The appellate court's likely to be on his side on the issue about whether he's a valid appointee and not a rogue prosecutor. Chutkan, I'm sure, is going to continue to harass Trump up until the election and try to time. She said today the election has no impact on her timing. Well, of course it should have an impact on her timing. To say it doesn't is, suggests to me it's the exact opposite. Of course it needs to have an impact on her timing, especially since what we're talking about are largely ministerial issues, right? In the sense that there's no deadline. So to create fake deadlines to put Trump in a corner before the election is political. But we should expect more of the same from Chutkan. And hopefully they recognize the Supreme Court is there's no harm if they win, right? And if they lose, they lose. But it's all or nothing now. So they're going to exercise every act of gamesmanship they can to further compromise the election. Because I want to go back and tell your listeners and viewers something. The election's already compromised. And the question is, will the compromised nature of the election result in an outcome that the people don't trust?
Can you unpack that? Are you saying that the election is compromised due to the amount of lawfare that we've seen, President Trump having spent months now sitting in a courtroom and not campaigning, and everything from mugshots to assassination attempts?
That's right. He's facing the threat of jail. How is that not distracting from his campaign? He spent weeks in a courtroom unnecessarily. He spent untold time and resources and campaign resources dealing with this lawfare. That's putting your thumb on the scales, and obviously that benefited the opposition campaign. At the time we thought it was the Biden campaign. It turns out it was some sort of ghost campaign. The nominee to be determined at a time to be at some uncertain time. I don't even know if the nominee is determined now, given the way things are. I tell you, and let's not pretend that it won't be further compromised, as I say, with some crazy attempt to jail Trump up there in September. But on the other hand, maybe the federal courts will say we're stopping this circus.
So do you believe that there could be some type of interceding end to all of this before the election? Because based on my reading of the Constitution, this is a direct interference in a federal election that would give, obviously, the Supreme Court supreme power to end it.
Yeah, I mean, the courts aren't going to say it's election interference, my guess is, because the courts are afraid of election disputes. But in this case, the Supreme Court ruled pretty explicitly about the presidential immunities and the protections it affords President Trump and other former presidents, including this current soon-to-be former president. And so I do think there's going to be an intercession there. I think if I were Trump's team, I would think of every legal stratagem to keep him out of that courtroom because his freedom's on the line.
Yeah.
And it's not enough to say, oh, well, if you're sentenced to jail, we'll appeal. You know, you don't want to get sentenced to jail. Strategies to keep you out.
You're a pretty smart guy, Tom. I guess in closing, like, wouldn't sentencing Trump to jail in the truly the small hours in the eve of an election, would that be possibly the greatest political backfire in American history? Based on everything that we've seen on this strategy so far, it has failed on every conceivable lane and on every conceivable step. It seems to have made Trump stronger on the process of every path, including but not limited to Donald Trump bringing it up in the debate to Joe Biden's face. And I'm sure he intends to do so to Kamala in a week from now.
Yeah, it's becoming, I think you may be right there in the sense that the left is a little bit afraid of this. And there's been a little bit of a hesitation by Bragg and Jack Smith to kind of speed this along in a way that suggests, A, they're afraid of the Supreme Court, and B, they're afraid of the political consequences. And to be clear, it should be reversed. It's always the political consequences first for the Putin-like individuals running our system.
In closing here, Tom, and I know that you've come on many times to quite hilariously and entertainingly talk about one of your favorite people on the planet, which is Big Fani Willis and Nathan's Hot Dog. You're the one who said that they obviously she needs to be disbarred and potentially criminally investigated in Georgia. Her daughter was arrested, and in the cop body cam footage, there's this funny Easter egg. I think we can pop it up as a play beside here of Nathan Wade. So apparently they're still like hanging out. They told the court that their relationship is over, and here they are like in plain clothes, like going on vacation together. What's going on here, Tom?
Oh, come on, Benny. It's our lawyer. It's purely a legal relationship. There was a legal crisis, and out of every criminal defense lawyer in the entire Atlanta metro area, the elected district attorney of the most populous county could only think of one man to call.
Yes, and he's there in a t-shirt. He's there in a t-shirt. So it's cool.
Well, I'm just glad to see that the romance continues, despite the pressure and the world being against them.
That's right, Tom. How could you hate love so much? How could you try and break up their unrequited?
It's a love story that's rocking the republic.
Modern day Romeo and Juliet.
I mean, talk about contempt for the rule of law. I mean, but to be more serious, thumb in their nose, right?
Truly, they maintained and represented to the court and our viewers, right, that were watching by the millions, that this relationship was over. It was done years ago, and here they are today, bailing their daughter out of jail. I don't think it's their daughter, but bailing Fani Willis's. We call her Little Fani. It's Big Fani and Little Fani. Out of jail. So
that case hopefully goes nowhere as well. But another example, just another example. And we had a case, I don't know if you heard, I haven't talked about this. We had a court yesterday tell us that there's no public interest in finding out who Jack Smith's top people are trying to jail Trump.
Really?
He gets to keep all those names secret.
His entire team? It's like the Jay Bratt team.
We didn't ask for the secretary's names. Yeah. We want, who are the equivalent of assistant U.S. attorneys who are trying to jail Trump? Oh, no, we don't want them to be hurt or harassed. There's no public interest in finding out if they hired Michelle Obama to help prosecute Trump. For all we know, Michelle Obama could be working there. I'm being facetious, but that's the point. We don't know who's working there.
Wow. I mean, if Jack Smith puts his office inside of a mansion on a private island, you have a very high probability that Michelle Obama will show up. There's this amazing phenomenon where she goes to the DNC convention and talks about how bad and evil people who take too much for themselves are. And then she goes back to one of...
Well, maybe they're renting some space in Obama's mansion now over there in Colorado.
Yeah, maybe. That's right. The only president that just moved right down the street, never left D.C. So interesting.
First time in 100 years a president has remained in D.C.
So it was a very short flight from the Capitol building.
The only prior president recently who did that was Wilson, and he was sick. He couldn't leave.
They saved a lot on helicopter fuel. You see, it's for the environment. They just take off from the Capitol, go to Colorado. It's like 2 minutes.
And the Secret Service must love it since it's their home office, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Maybe they have a good, hopefully they have a good protection plan there. Hopefully they have a good protection plan for every president, but you know.
Well, not in place for the chef.
Yeah. When you and I are dead, Tom, they'll still be searching for Thomas Crooks's real motivation. We'll find out one of these days.
We don't know how the shooter got up on the roof. That's a mystery. Everything's a mystery. And it's amazing how all these mysteries are out there.
That happens. It truly is a universal mystery. Maybe our grandchildren's grandchildren will figure it out one day. We'll finally hear the truth. Tom Fitton, you can follow Tom Fitton, hear the truth every single day on his X account. Please go ahead and follow. 2.7 million Americans. Goodness gracious, Tom. 2.7
all of them are
million.
Leftist reply guys.
Yeah. Yes.
I should say all of them, but there's a significant number semi-obsessed with me. It's strange. I'm sure you get a good following in that regard too, Benny, huh?
Oh, you know what? The engagement's been great. Been great recently. Just been great. So, Stuart, I drink
as long as they spell your name right?
I drink your tears. That's exactly right. We thank you, Tom, the guy who's been the guy who's been probably one of the number one causes of left-wing tears in Washington D.C. for decades. The great Tom Fitton. Godspeed. Follow him.
Thank you, sir.
Producers say that producer Robbie says instead of an ambulance chaser, we should call Nathan Wade a fanny chaser. What do we think? Okay, we're writing jokes here live. We're writing the jokes live. We don't know. We're just working on material. Okay, we're working on material. That's what we do on this program. Let's end with some really good news. Here we go. Donald Trump says that he will adopt Elon Musk's proposal for a government efficiency commission. Oh yeah, baby. So Donald Trump has effectively now said Elon Musk will be serving in my administration and will be trimming the fat, as it were, inside of the federal government. Donald Trump last night was making fun of Tim Walz, for instance. I think this is probably one of my favorite all-time clips. We're not weird. We're like solid as a rock. Tim Walz is the weirdo with the jazz hands. Go.
In my view, is early voting is about to start, and I don't know how many Americans are truly familiar with her positions of decriminalizing illegal immigration and free housing, health care, education. Tim Walz wants free college education, legal driver's licenses.
I was so honored today.
And she wants a path to citizenship.
His brother endorsed me.
I saw that.
And his whole family. I saw the picture. And honestly, it was a very nice looking family. But his brother endorsed me and the whole family endorsed me. I said, who are all the people?
Let me
tell you, there's something weird with that guy. He's a weird guy. JD is not weird. He's a solid rock. I happen to be a very solid rock. We're not weird. We're other things perhaps, but we're not weird.
We're other things, perhaps. We are not weird. Donald Trump was in rare form last night. Was not really rare form, but you get sometimes very subdued Donald Trump, and this was rowdy. This was rowdy Trump. He was clearly having a great time. Calling out Kamala Harris about lying, working at McDonald's. Of course, there's absolutely no record of Kamala Harris working at McDonald's. She only started working at McDonald's when she ran for president, of course. Somebody give me a photo. I mean, listen, we will. A skeptic can't be wrong, right? It's up to you. You're the one making the claim, so it's up to you to prove it. I want a photo, I want a pay stub. Nothing? Kamala's not that old. There's got to be a photo of her doing fries. Donald Trump calling her out on that.
You know my jobs. I've listed them 100 times, working in the service industry and bartending and cooking and washing dishes and construction. Not McDonald's. That was a lie. And I
By the way, she didn't work at McDonald's, right?
She did not. Well, there's no evidence of it.
Did she work at McDonald's? Because
so far, no evidence.
I don't think so, based on what I saw.
Here's my question.
Bring it up during the debate. Please, I beg of you. Bring it up during the debate. Like, please, please, please. Please, please, please. Do we have the Trump McDonald's ad? We can close on that. Donald Trump did actually work at McDonald's. Oh, yeah. Donald Trump worked with McDonald's on an ad, and it is really glorious. Also glorious, Donald Trump's explanation of what the difference in his message has been over the past few years running for president. What is the difference in your message from 2016? And Donald Trump's answer, man, yeah, hits you right in the heart, as Donald Trump talks about being hit himself by a bullet. Here we go.
If 2016 was about the forgotten man and forgotten woman, what is 2024 about?
So it's not that different. It's still about the forgotten man and the forgotten woman. The people are being treated horribly in this country. We're a country that's being laughed at all over the world. And I'll be honest, if Joe Biden would be a great president, I would be happier than being the worst president in the history of our country, because I want to see what's good for the country. And I would have been very happy. I have very nice places I could be. This is not easy. I got shot at. I got hit. I could have been all over that place. I could have. But you know what? It's very simple, and it starts with make America great again. That's what we have to do.
It makes me think.
A rowdy crowd. It was nice. President Trump obviously responds very well to a very live and raucous crowd. 7,000 people there last night. Donald Trump also in rare form with the mosquito slapping. President Trump was attacked once again in Pennsylvania by a mosquito. And here was the response.
He was down like 18 or 19 points after the debate. And I hate mosquitoes. I'm surprised. I didn't think we had. We don't like those mosquitoes running around. We want nothing to do with them. And we want nothing to do with bad politicians that hate our country, too. You want to know the truth. But he had.
All right. You're seeing vintage Trump. It does seem like everything from 2016 is back in play. It's interesting. It's wild how the memes come to life. Time is a flat circle, and we are back again. Our producers did note that Donald Trump has had an ongoing onerous relationship with mosquitoes, and was able to pull from the archives President Trump versus mosquitoes for your viewing pleasure.
The Democrats, there was a mosquito. I don't want mosquitoes around me. I don't like mosquitoes. I don't like those mosquitoes. I never did. Okay, speaking of mosquitoes, hello, Hillary. How are you doing? Insiders from Washington, D.C. They know what has to be done, too, but they'll never do it because they're working for themselves. I see a mosquito. Right now, I don't like mosquitoes too much. Get out of here, you mosquito. Quite a while ago. I want to tell you something in case you didn't know it. Oh, it's a mosquito. I never liked mosquitoes. I like them even less now. But I played golf with John Elway, and I will tell you something you will not be surprised at. He hits that.
The low-key Hillary troll. Oh, got her. Hillary. That was so perfect. Man. It's too entertaining. It's too good. Life's too good, man. It's too entertaining. It's too much fun. There's too many people there trying to break your will, trying to doom, trying to black pill, right? And I'm not going to allow it, right? It's not our nature. Like, it's actually in the nature of left-wingers to be miserable and self-loathing, to be sad and vicious, vindictive people. And they'll have their comeuppance, man. They'll have theirs. But we over here are going to be joyous, happy warriors, is what we promise to you, that this is what we will remain. And also, there's a reason for it, of course. The reason is that we don't fight flesh and blood. We really don't. There's not going to be, there's not going to be a savior in the Republican Party, the Democrat Party. There's not going to be a man or a woman like comes to save all of us. Like, we have our faith rooted deeply in true salvation, and something that's real, and in victory that's already been set before us. And so that's where we can stand very firmly as we stare down attacks from all sides, but also like President Trump. I mean, I just got an email, JD Vance, Trump is sentenced in 13 days. This is like the Trump email that gets sent out. What a world we're living in. It's wild and it's so dark. And frankly, the older you get, the more you realize you just can't trust anything. And so you should really trust in your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And that is an immovable rock that sets you upright. And then nothing else, as long as you stand on that, you got your family next to you, as long as you stand on that, I mean, you're going to be good. And then all these trials, you can be joyful through them, and you can be a happy warrior. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to our verse of the day. Fight the good fight for true faith. Hold tightly to eternal life, which God has called you, which you have declared so well before many witnesses. Well, true that, man. True that. Cling tightly, hold tightly to the eternal life for which God has called you. Don't forget that your creator, you're like, your life's not a joke. You're not a mistake. You weren't born in the wrong gender or skin color. You weren't born in the wrong place or time. You're put here very specifically in this moment. And God knows what he's doing. So fight on. And ladies and gentlemen, fight with us. We have a rowdy and fun show, and we'll continue that show tonight. And we'll march onward, because you can't defeat an army of happy warriors. And that's what's most important. We say it often on this program. Stand upright and march with me, Benny Brigade, the pirate ship. We're working on it. We're going to mix it all together. Apparently, there's brigades and ships, Navy. We're going to make it all happen. Sea shanties for ye, and march on, Christian soldier. We'll see you tonight live again around 9 o'clock. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
Truth gon' be faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.